Hello, Carrie Burchell here. Great to see everybody live on LinkedIn today. I'll be posting this video in other mediums as well. So wherever you join me, I'd love to hear from you. Chime in the comments. Let me know what resonates for you. I'm always eager to build content that resonates for my audience. If you haven't already subscribed to my LinkedIn newsletter, be sure to do that. Some weekly, bi-weekly tips on how to really manage the interpersonal dynamics at work. That's lots of topics, and I really want to tailor them to you. So that's why your comments to me also mean so much. One of the things that I've been seeing lately in my consulting practice is a lot of work around feeling overwhelmed naturally. Certainly, and I've talked about this on other LinkedIn lives, this cloud that seems pervasive going into 2022, I think me included, really wanted the pandemic to sort of feel a bit of a closure coming in to the new year. And we're feeling that it's persistent for different reasons. And so people are feeling just personally still kind of cocoon, not able to be as free as they want to with their lives, with the pandemic, wearing masks. There's the work, right, of just continued chaos. Our processes haven't settled yet coming out of COVID because we haven't come out of COVID. And that grit and tenacity eventually starts to thin. And so let's talk through some ways to de-stress and look at that reality a little differently. So let's start with some tried and true concepts by Carrie Burchell. That is me. I forgot to introduce myself in the beginning. I'm Carrie Burchell, and my specialty is helping teams and leaders work with interpersonal dynamics so that we can really increase trust and therefore productivity. All right, so here's the reality, right? We all get caught in the day-to-day spin. Something's on fire, jumping from one fire to the next, just persistent life. And what we need to do is recognize when we're in that spin and kind of slow down to go fast. Recognize what is the nugget here at the bottom that I really need to address so that I can bounce up. This is hard work to do. And this is really where I can help teams develop the interpersonal dynamic and routine and conversation to really slow down, to go fast, get at what those root spins are. So here's a take I want to have on that, because what we typically do is we just get caught here on the spin. And that's problematic, right? As leaders, we want to help ourselves and team members get to the bottom of the spin. Well, here's rule number one, or I guess insight number one, that you want to think of when you are trying to bounce someone out of their spin, is people always come to you with the spin up here. Right? They're not aware that they haven't come down to the bottom of the root cause yet. And so what people bring to you first, this pink, messy stuff, is not really the root problem. So as leaders, right, we became leaders because we're really effective at problem solving. And so somebody comes here with this question, and we instantly want to fix it right here. We put all of our energy there, and we want to fix it, and it can't really go very far because we haven't got the momentum of slowing down to really do root cause analysis and truly fix a problem. So when people come to you with this initial top layer of the spin, slow down to ask questions. I'm going to map this concept onto another hard truth. And the first concept of the spin is hard because we don't want to spin, right? We just want things fixed. Okay, that's definitely true for me. All right, here's another nugget. There is a huge amount of stuff that's out of our control. During the pandemic, more stuff is out of our control, right? There's a subset of things that's maybe in our influence, gets smaller. And then there's an irritatingly small amount of stuff that is in our control. And I would argue that pre-pandemic, when things were a little more predictable, that sphere of control was probably larger, right? So let's map that idea of really leveraging the things that we can control. That's where the magic happens, right? That's where we protect ourselves from burnout. That's where we help people move forward. So we know that people come to us with the spin happening up here, and our job is to kind of help them get down here to what they can control. So let's map that here, thinking of it a little differently. When we help people drill down to what they can control, they're going to feel more successful. Root cause analysis really makes it so that there's a sustainable change. When people are up here, we can safely say that they're focused on things out of their control. And maybe in the middle here is what they might influence. And at the bottom is where we want to bring people down to what they can control. And that's when we start making motions into potentially stuff we can influence, right? It's great if one person manages what they control. Even better if we can sort of influence other people to get on board. But living up here in this out of control stuff is where most of us live, and it's the least effective. It's the most painful. It is the ticket to burnout, and it is evidence of us not slowing down to really say, what can we control? So back to this square and the tiny pink box of things we can control. When we think of your own work, influence, burnout, that kind of stuff, you need to make sure that you're honest with yourself on where you're actually spending your time. That's a tough reality today because I'm going to map this here a different way on the back. Love my flip around whiteboard. So let's say 3 years ago, right? We had standards. I'm going to switch to my pink pen. We had standards and quality measures and expectations that were up here. And we could, for the most part, achieve those. Heck, sometimes we even surpassed them, right? And that's when we could control more of what was coming at us, right? Everything from people behaved a little more predictably. We could get in the resources, the physical materials that we need to do our jobs. We could engage people differently because they weren't as tired as we're feeling now as we manage kids staying at home from school because of COVID, being off from work because of COVID, waiting to burn up all your ETO because you might have COVID and different companies have different policies. I mean, there's just so much that is wearing on people. So 3 years ago, we could achieve more and have higher standards, in part because we had the bandwidth and also because we had more access to the resources, staffing, for example, right? Today, this is the ugly truth. Our standard is more down here. And so we need to shift our mindset from saying, I'm going to be Herculean and do all of this stuff, and say, I got this amount done today. This was in my control. This is what I was able to really wrap my hands around. Maybe I influenced a little bit, but I really leveraged the stuff I can control. So that means that you didn't get caught up here doing all of this other stuff. It means that you really live down here with my drawing black pen, managing the stuff that you can control. So, achieving these standards does not necessarily mean less or weaker or less potent or less effective. It actually reflects your ability to adjust, your ability to manage chaos. I mean, these are really stellar leadership skills, right? Your agility, your ability to be innovative and creative and say, these standards, they're not even on the table anymore because they just look different. What we need from people and companies is just different. So let's just say maybe things used to be that way. And I'd call it a standard, really. You can tell I'm leading you into the translation of how we see things today. Because if I'm stuck in the old mindset of those were standards, and come heck or high water, I'm going to drill up and accomplish that stuff and force it to happen, you're going to find yourself pushing a boulder all day long. And that's the ticket to burnout. So don't think of them as standards. Think of it more, I'm being responsive to a gazillion different variables today than I was 3 years ago. And I'm managing the stuff that's in my control, which means I've had to adapt and be flexible and innovative and creative and use different resources and adjust to changes all over the place. At home, at work, with family, with friends, meeting your social needs, your emotional needs. It's all different. It's a different game today than it was 3 years ago. Some perks, like it's not all bad, right? There are some advantages to how we're seeing things today. Think of those advantages, leverage them, use more of them so that you manage your stress levels, your bandwidth. We need you. We need you to find a way to leverage this stuff and not spend so much energy in this area around your control. Imagine if we all leveraged what we can control, the collaboration that would happen around that. I often say, like Olympic circles, right? If everybody managed what they can control and there was this overlap between all of that work, which naturally there would be, imagine the synergy that would happen when we stay with what we can control. Because that stuff you can move. And if you partnered with other people who can move stuff too, because they're managing stuff in their control, now we've got some momentum. And we're not exasperated by this out of our control stuff up top. So my specialty is helping people slow down to go fast, really looking at how we connect, managing those interpersonal dynamics, leveraging our leadership and our teams with trust so they can really be productive and manage what they can control. So I'd love to know what's your greatest takeaway from today. Shoot me a message, direct message me or post. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. Would love to know what your thoughts are on managing the stuff that you can't control. What are the pitfalls in that? What are the disappointments? What are you grieving that you can't control that maybe you used to 3 years ago? It's tough right now. We're digging deep. And we need to give ourselves permission and recognition to work on this stuff, permission to get out of this area, permission to work down here, and recognition that we are working on the stuff that we can control. That's how you're going to stay healthy. That's how you're going to stay contributing. We need you. We see you out there working so hard. All right, I'm Carrie Birchall. I help leaders and teams with their interpersonal dynamics to rock trust and therefore productivity. I would love to hear from you. Send me a message. Tell me what your takeaway was from today and what resonated with you. And gosh, if you want to challenge some of this thinking, I'm all about a healthy debate too. Thanks. Bye.